let's deliver some good news now. And everybody already knows about this, but we'll celebrate it anyway. And of course, confirm this one. So we're talking about one of the finest athletes in the country in the 2023 class. 6'5", 190, Malachi Coleman has made it official, and he is going to be a Husker.
Yep. He'd had his commitment ceremony, laid out for quite a while, and that was on Saturday, and he committed to Mickey Joseph and Nebraska, and obviously a big part of that is because Mickey Joseph. So yeah, big get. It kind of reinforces the reputation of Mickey Joseph, especially with the wide receiver position, and number one player in the state, and you got to get the number one player in the state, especially right now. And we talked a lot about recruiting last week about, we went over the in-state and the out-of-state recruits, and I think to a T, I think all the in-state guys are still on board. And, Malachi Coleman committing doesn't hurt those guys' decision at all. So, it was I went to Malachi's game. They played Gretna. Gretna's ranked number one in the state. They played up there on Friday night, and they played tough, but they lost. And they kind of backed their way into the playoffs. So Malachi does play again this Friday. I'll go see him again, and unfortunately, that's against Elkhorn South, which is probably the best team in the state. With fellow Husker commit Maverick Noonan leading the show there. But he had a ceremony at Lincoln East High School, my alma mater, and it was held in the auditorium there at 5:00 Central on Saturday, and they got us all, out of our routine on a bye week, and it was pretty crazy. I mean, I've been doing this for over 20 years, and I've covered more commitment announcements than I can remember at this point. And this was one of the I don't know. It was one of the stranger ones just because of how big of a production it ended up being. There was some kind of band thing going on too at Seacrest Field, which people aren't familiar. Lincoln East has Seacrest Field there, which the whole city shares as the home field. Right now they do. There's a new stadium being built, but so the parking lot was packed, and you couldn't really find your way. At least, I went to high school there. Well, it's a junior high, senior high. So I went to school there for 6 years. So I know my way around there. So it didn't bother me any. And it was held in the school auditorium, and there was probably at least 100 people there for this. A lot of his teammates were there, and a lot of the East High family, and it was a pretty big deal, and there was an MC there for the thing, and it was actually, for us, it was kind of brutal because it took forever. I hate to say that, but Malachi's track coach talked for a while, and then his school counselor talked for a while, and then his dad, and then his mom, and then he did the hat trick thing where he picked up he picked up the Oklahoma hat, and he picked, I can't remember the first one he picked up, but then, he's put his hat on and said, "I'm staying home." And, it was a pretty good deal. And I really, like I've said on this show for how long we've been talking about Malachi Coleman, that he's coming to Nebraska, and sure enough. And Friday night during his game, it was pretty funny. He was wearing Nebraska leggings there above his socks, and so if that wasn't a dead giveaway, I don't know what it was. But I asked him in our interview with him afterwards, and I said, "Hey, you were wearing those Nebraska leggings, and were you just like trying to advertise that you'd already made your decision up?" And he said he couldn't figure out how to put them on backwards or upside down or reversed or whatever. He just went with it like it was. But it's no secret that he's been saying for a long time, if Mickey Joseph's at Nebraska, he's going to Nebraska, and it's a big get. It's a really big get for Nebraska right now, especially when they're trying to recruit a lot. In a time where there's uncertainty, if Mickey Joseph's not the head coach, it's pretty much a no-brainer that you got to keep him on there as an associate head coach or what have you, because he's showing his mettle right now as a recruiter, and especially at that wide receiver spot. And there's still another big fish out there left, Davion Hall at Bellevue West. He's another very dynamic 4-star receiver that's yet to be committed. So we'll see. But, big news on the recruiting front for Nebraska. And coming off a bye week when all the coaches were out on the recruiting trail and selling Nebraska. A lot of the assistant coaches, they're just trying to sell the school at this point. And you don't know, they don't know if they're going to be here next year or not. But, they're all going out and doing their jobs with the mindset that they will be here next year.
Malachi Coleman out of Lincoln East, second-rated athlete in the athlete category, coming out of high school, top 75 player in the country, number 1 rated again in Nebraska.